Welcome everyone to another, officially actually the first session of You Can Sit With Us, but Sangeetha had some technical difficulties, not so much us, but the platform we were using. So we're re-recording this for your convenience actually. And because it's originally the first one, we started with a very UK-centric topic, and actually a topic that relates a lot to what inspired this series to kick off, which is politics. And in this case, UK politics and Parliament. Sangeetha Wynter, who will be guiding us through the breakdown of Parliament and voting today, is a Bristol Labour Party Councillor Candidate and has a lot of experience in the field, and also will tell us her story of how she ended up in the job that she's in today, and more importantly, why she feels that's so important. And what we want to inspire with this series, or actually just achieve with this series, is that we want to celebrate heroes who dedicate their every day fighting the good fight, and also maybe let you know what you can do to get involved without necessarily making huge career changes, but also just be aware of how to be more informed on everyday topics that we seem very passionate about on social media, but we might not really know what we're talking about, and we're very quick to follow the opinions of what we think are our peers. So what we're going to do today is Sangeetha is going to break down UK Parliament, take us a little bit back to high school, basically, just to refresh your memory, then talk about her journey so far, her motivation to do so, and then what her job looks like, her week look like, and give us a little bit of homework of how we can get involved, what we can read up on, and what we can look into. So the floor is all yours. Sangeetha, take it away.
Wicked. Hi. So yeah, my name's Sangeetha Wynter. I'm a local Labour Councillor Candidate. I guess it all starts with UK Parliament, right? So there are three branches, okay, if you look at it like a tree. You've got the monarch, the House of Commons, and the House of Lords. Now, the monarch is the person who occupies the state, the head of state, they occupy the throne. The monarch, aka the Queen, appoints a prime minister, she signs the bills and formally agrees all the laws. The Queen never really uses a lot of her powers, so they're mainly like for ceremonial purposes. Now you've also got the House of Lords, which as you look at, if you imagine it's another branch, and they are not elected. They are 800 members, and they're made up of political peers and hereditary peers. Now hereditary peers are basically lords that have been people that are lords because it's been passed through generations. I'm not sure entirely how it works, but it's something that is it's gone on for years. But I'm not sure how much of them make up the actual House of Lords, and they also consist of bishops as well. Now, they all use their experience from inside and outside of Parliament to check and challenge the government. They look at laws in more detail and scrutinise them. And they have their own chamber, just like the House of Commons, to debate. They have the opposition and the government as well, but they sit on red leather sofas instead. And not all of them are party members. Some are what we call crossbenchers as well. And then you have the House of Commons. They consist of elected MPs, and there are 650 of them. Now, they debate big issues, propose laws, amend them, and scrutinise and challenge the government. Each MP represents a constituency in the UK. A constituency is basically like a voting district. So they each belong to a political party and are elected by their constituents, which would be you and me. In a general election, the leader of the party who has the most MPs elected becomes Prime Minister. Now, we know this happens every 5 years, but I guess for the last couple of years, it seems we've had a lot of elections because Theresa May called that snap election. So it's a bit different, a bit unusual. We've been through a lot, our generation. The Prime Minister selects a cabinet once they're elected, which will basically be the front bench. They'll sit on the front bench there. And they're made up of 20 senior MPs. So they're in charge of areas like education, Home Secretary, Chancellor of the Exchequer, things like that. Now, the rest of the MPs are made up of the back bench, so they'll sit behind. Parties not in power are called the opposition, and they will question and challenge the government and scrutinise them. So basically, at the moment, you have the Conservative Party, which is in power now, and then you have the opposition, which will be Labour, the Lib Dems, and the Green Party. Now, the Speaker sits in the middle, and he's basically like the referee. He or she, I should say, is basically the referee, and sort of make sure everyone's on the same page and keeping everything nice and calm as possible. Now, the MPs split their time between working in Parliament and their constituency as well. So they generally will be, let's say, for instance, if they're from Bristol, they'll spend their time in their hometown of Bristol, but also in London as well. So they'll travel back and forth and also live in either places. And there's also a team of staff who obviously get forgotten about, which are the parliamentary assistants, the clerks, the librarians, and they basically keep everything running behind the scenes. And their job is really, really important as well. And they mainly consist of young people, graduates or students and things. Now there are current, sorry.
I have just a question, just because you explained the three branches. Now in the Netherlands, we have quite a similar foundation of our parliament, essentially, and we call it a constitutional monarchy, because basically with our case, it's the Queen is there, but she's more of a symbol. She doesn't actually have any political power whatsoever. And I wanted to ask you, in Britain, is it the same, or when is there a moment when the Queen could actually say, no, I'm going to stop this?
Yeah, so it's essentially the same, similar in the UK, because the Queen's power is mainly ceremonial. She often doesn't use her role. But for example, she could declare war. She has that power to do so. So I guess in that situation, she could step in and sort of say something. Right. And also when Boris Johnson wanted to prorogue Parliament as well, he had to ask the Queen's permission for that. So she still holds a lot of power, but mainly doesn't, sort of takes a back seat, I guess.
Right. Okay, thank you. Continue.
All right. There are currently 650 MPs as well. Only 220 of them are women, and 65 of them are BME.
I know you and I have done this before, but that number still blows my mind.
Crazy, it's crazy. I was thinking exactly the same thing when I read it. Yeah, only 65. So yeah, not a very high proportion there. Now, you've got the cabinet and the shadow cabinet as well. So the cabinet, they will meet with the Prime Minister once a week, and they've got a really important job. So for example, the Chancellor, like Rishi Sunak, Foreign Secretary, Home Secretary, like Priti Patel, they will meet with the Prime Minister, and they all sit around that table in 10 Downing Street and discuss things. They'll approve policy, debate and discuss issues, and they'll run various departments as well, and they'll work alongside civil servants. Now, the shadow cabinet is the cabinet of the opposition, so the party in waiting, so to speak. So they're like on the subs bench, waiting for their moment, but they of course are still doing lots of work as well, scrutinising policy and things like that.
So when you watch the debates on telly, they're usually the ones who are like cussing the main person. They're basically the people, when you see a debate, and the person who's usually speaking the most calm is actually the one of the leading part of the party that's actually holding the seat, as they would say.
Definitely.
Exactly. And the person who is challenging and saying, no, you're wrong, and this and this and that is usually 99.9% always the opposition.
Yes, definitely. And if you ever get the opportunity to go to watch Prime Minister's Question Time, it can be quite funny as well. Like some of the clapbacks are quite quite something.
The UK is known for it, I think, globally, to have quite an, because especially compared to the rest of Europe is very PC in the sense that it's all very, not emotionally driven. And then you watch British Parliament, which is also a lot more televised than it used to be in the Netherlands, for example. And it's so personal and it's so emotionally driven. Like you see that in Asia a lot as well. And I think the UK holds the throne for that in Europe. And I think throughout the centuries, it's been quite theatrical.
Yes, yes.
Which is very non-European, really and truly, because the European culture is to be very monotone, very non-emotional, and Britain doesn't really do that. It's quite entertaining.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah, definitely.
Is that something you would want to do? To be in those four walls and to make your point?
I'm not entirely sure yet at the moment. Maybe when I'm older. I guess I am passionate about, like, I hate injustice and it really makes me angry. So I guess maybe one day, I'm not sure for sure. I do like my freedom and to be able to just, be a normal person, I guess. MPs are normal people, but, they're up there for, for the public to see. And it's not an easy job at all.
I respect it. Continue. Sorry, as you were.
I basically got into politics through applying for the Operation Black Vote parliamentary scheme. So that was in 2017. And I was always like passionate about politics, quite like an activist, I guess, but I didn't really know I was. So I attended like this tuition fees protest. I remember walking out of sixth form with all my friends and like going on my first proper protest. I was thinking, okay, this is kind of cool. Like, I quite like this. And then, it sort of went from there. So I applied for this shadowing scheme, which I heard about on the radio. I had my interview in London, and then I was accepted onto the scheme. And basically, the Operation Black Vote scheme was essentially, it gave us opportunity to shadow a local MP, so like our constituency MP. Mine was Kerry McCarthy, who's a Labour MP, really down-to-earth woman, really nice, which was great because I didn't know what an MP would be like when I first met them. And then we'd also have training days as well. So we would have civil servants come and talk to us, all people of Black and minority ethnic backgrounds, I'd like to point out as well. So it was really good role models we would see. We had media training from a woman from the BBC, and it was just amazing to see all these amazing people from different parts of the UK who were chosen on the scheme out of the wealth of applicants that they had from across the UK. And we were all in this room together, sharing ideas, talking about our stories, and we all had the same common interest, which was to represent, our community and try and help and make a difference, basically.
Quick question there. I know when we first started talking, what interested me a lot about you was that you were, I don't want to say recruited, but kind of got into the system through Operation Black Vote. But just for people who are listening and think that sounds really interesting, Operation Black Vote is not just for whoever considers themselves to be of a Black ethnic group, if I'm correct, right?
Yes, definitely. So they mean Black as in politically Black. So we're all politically Black. I'm mixed race myself, half Jamaican, half Indian. So yeah, that's completely, yeah. And we had people who are Chinese, Egyptian, all different ethnicities, which was really great. So yeah. So during that, I got to shadow an MP. And then from there, I became the BME officer for Bristol Young Labour. And then after that, in 2019, so it's like 2 years later, I decided to run as a local council candidate, which I was sort of helped and sort of encouraged, because it wasn't something I thought I would really do at first. But then I had the experience and I had a network of people around me to support me with that as well. And I'd also like to say I'm still in touch with all those people from Operation Black Vote, all the people that were on the scheme, and even Simon Woolley, who is now a Lord now. Lord Simon Woolley is always on TV and stuff. He's brilliant. And literally, I can just send them a message and they'll always be there to support me. And that's Ashok as well, who also is part of the scheme. And yeah, they're always there for us, and which is great because it's almost like who you know it can be in the politics world.
And how long was the scheme for, and what did it look like? Like, were you still studying? Were you working? Like, what was the balance like?
Yeah, so the scheme lasted a year and a bit. They gave us a little bit extra because there was some like problems at the beginning in terms of like the duration of the scheme. But yeah, so it's about a year and a bit. And I was working at the time part-time, sort of freelance. I wasn't full-time teaching, so I could actually dedicate more time to it. But even people who had full-time jobs, they would have a certain number of days that you'd have to come into London and access the workshops, and it was all up to you how much you could give and how much time you could give. Essentially, you'd have the set days in London, but the days that you'd shadow your MP, you would work out yourself. So I would choose like Fridays because my MP was always in Bristol on a Friday, and that's how we would sort of work around things. And then from there we could like, you know, arrange days to come to Westminster and Parliament and visit London. So I love being in London anyways, it's a cool city. So I was like, yep.
Brilliant.
And yeah, so I would also like to say, actually, I did join the Labour Party as well whilst on the scheme, because it was the party that represented my values. So that's the main reason I chose the Labour Party, really.
And when you say you joined Labour Party, what does that mean? What does joining a party mean?
Yeah, so essentially you when you find a political party that sort of represents you, so you know that could be the Green Party, the Conservative Party, the Liberal Democrat Party, or an independent party. What I did was, anyway, I went onto the website of the Labour Party, read the manifesto, which is basically like the promise or the pledges that the party is going to make to you and to society, I guess. So I read it all, and I loved Jeremy Corbyn at the time. I was a big fan, and so so I literally was like, "Yeah, I'm joining the Labour Party." So that basically, when you join, you just sort of sign up on the website, and then you'll receive a membership card. Now you pay monthly as well. So when you're like under 26, I believe, it's about £2.25, which is nothing really.
Half a
it's not
drink.
much at all. Exactly, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I was reluctant at first because I wasn't paying for Spotify at the time, but you know, not gonna lie. But you know what? I thought, yeah, you can make a difference. So yeah, I joined, and then from that, you get to be invited to all the meetings, all your local meetings and things like that.
And do you know what happens with that £2 something a month?
Yeah, so that money will go towards campaigns, leaflets, printing leaflets for like your local councillor candidates or MPs, for example. And yeah, it goes towards the party and even their conferences that they hold every year as well. So yeah, from that, I decided to run as a local councillor, basically. Yeah, so in 2019, I applied. So I filled out the application form. They asked me like what skills I had, why I wanted to do it. And then from then I had an interview with the panel, which consisted of like a Labour Party member and another councillor, a current councillor as well. And then from there was the shortlisting meeting, which essentially in your local wards, members will meet and read your statement and literally sit there and choose the candidates that they like. So it's great. So if you were to become a member of a party, you could have that opportunity to actually sit down and attend a ward meeting and actually choose who your local councillor is going to be. But I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, so that's something that's really powerful in itself. You can actually choose somebody who represents you, who you think can represent you. Yeah, and if you were to become a councillor candidate yourself, it's always helpful to have someone to nominate you as well in those meetings to sort of, you know, talk about, you know, why this person's great, etc.
Like giving a reference, essentially.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Like a live reference for everyone to sort of listen and think, actually, yeah, I will consider that person. They might be young, but they've done X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And then from there, you have the selection meeting, which is basically where you do a speech to members. And so members from the ward will sit and watch you and then they'll ask you questions after. That was the most nerve-wracking bit, I'll have to admit. Like,
what kind of questions do they ask you?
It could be all sorts, literally. But like, they'll ask you things like, okay, you've spoken about in your statement how you want to, you know, engage the elderly as well as the old people, as well as young people, sorry. How are you going to do that sort of thing? And then you'll be like, okay, right, I'll run coffee mornings at a local community centre and things like that. So it can be really specific questions. Sometimes it can be a bit, I guess it can aim to be more at like national party politics as well. So some people might want your opinion on what you think about, I don't know, Keir Starmer or Jeremy Corbyn or something. But that's quite rare to happen. But, you know, like I said, I'm new to all this politics. I didn't really study it at uni or anything. So, you know, I can't say whether I'm this, like centre, left, or all of this, because I'm just generally a person who is interested in politics just because they want to help people. And that's where I come from, sort of thing. So I'm not really part of any particular group.
Actually, I want to take a step back, because I remember we discussed this last time. You know, you explained that you went to the Labour Party website and you read their manifesto and you felt like they represented your personal values. But I also remember us having a conversation where you said you feel like diversity should be represented all across the board. And I think that's something I definitely don't want to miss out today is, you know, we said that a lot of people, young people who are of ethnic minority backgrounds and who are also working class seem to always think that because I tick all these boxes, I automatically should also be a Labour Party supporter. But I think you had a very, you know, valid point that everyone should try to find whatever party it is that you feel like represents you as a person and as an individual the most.
Definitely. Yeah, I believe in representation across the board. And I believe just because you're Black or Asian doesn't mean you have to automatically choose the Labour Party. You know, there's the Green Party that desperately in need of more diversity as well. And, you know, you might not agree with all the views that some of these parties, you know, have, but actually having representation in all aspects is a good thing, in my opinion. Not everyone agrees, but I think that, you know, we need representation across the board, definitely. And you shouldn't feel constrained to a particular party just because of the colour of your skin, because at the end of the day, if you really look at it, you think actually as a person of colour, it is very, very hard, I think, to think of examples of a party in UK politics that has done a certain amount for people of colour.
Yeah. And I think this is a very valid point, because yes, in order to basically get rid of the reigning champions at the moment, it would be beneficial for people to vote, like tactically vote. But if we want to think of an ideal future where all political parties kind of represent our current society, that will only happen if people infiltrate all different lanes and all different aspects of UK Parliament and politics, and only that way. And that means that our children will have more options to feel represented, you know, regardless of how we feel right now. It's actually almost more for the next generation to come. It's almost like it's not even for us anymore.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that, because it's even like, you know, with jobs coming from an Indian background, with certain careers, like, you know, my generation, my grandparents would often like say, you know, become a doctor, become a pharmacist, because like a safe job. Yeah. But actually what will happen is our children, I think, will be able to be a bit more freer, if, you know, if I was to have children, will be able to become more freer in their choices, and it will sort of become and take up spaces in other industries, not just always having to be a doctor, actually thinking about politics, or, you know, becoming a Formula 1 driver. I don't know, like, you know. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's really important, especially as people of colour, to have these conversations as well. Right. Definitely. So after the selection meeting, I was good to go, and I could get out in my area and start campaigning. So that's practically where I'm at the moment because of COVID-19. we had to literally stop all campaigning, all door knocking and canvassing, and just we're still preparing for election, because it's not going to be, obviously, well, it would have been May 2020, it's now going to be May 2021. So we're still in election mode currently.
And what does that mean for the current, so having councillor candidates, how many are there?
I'm not quite sure, but there's literally I'd say over 20. Over
20, okay. And what does that mean for a current councillor? Like, how does that work?
So they're currently still working and representing the people in their wards. Because me and my co-counsellor, we're really hungry to sort of get as much experience as possible. We will still attend meetings, it's virtually now, and we're still active via Facebook and Twitter. So particularly Facebook, and these sort of Facebook groups are really popular with members who are active. So any problems that they have, we can sort of reach out and talk to them about it.
And you mentioned a war.
Essentially, it's sort of looking at communicating with people.
So sorry, there was a bit of lagging there. Didn't mean to interrupt. But you mentioned a ward. What's a ward?
Yes. Yeah, so a ward is essentially an electoral district, and they're represented by councillors. So the constituency is the larger area, so that's represented by an MP. And you've got the ward is within the constituency.
Okay,
makes sense. Yeah, and we represent the ward, so they're a lot smaller areas.
Perfect.
So the current councillors they work an average of 15 to 20 hours a week. It depends, it all varies. That's a backbencher councillor.
Okay.
And then with no chair responsibilities. Some weeks are busier. We'll also meet for full council once a month as well. So we'll sit with the mayor and the opposition you'll have on one side and the current party on the other. These meetings have gone for a long time, not going to lie. And you can sit in on them. The public can actually sit in on council meetings as well. I know in Bristol, they're up on YouTube, so you can actually watch the meetings as well. You can submit questions that you have. So for an example of one I went to, there were people who were against 5G. So they'd submit their statement, and then they'd all stand up, the people that wanted to speak, and take it in turns, and they'd read out why they're there. And express their concerns, and then a member of the council would talk to them and sort of talk about what they're doing essentially. But it's a role that it's as much as you want to put in. So I know me and my co-counsellor, we both work full-time. We're both in our mid-20s, so I'm not anticipating on giving up my full-time job. I'll be real, it's hard. I want to leave home. I'm sure many young people would like to, have financial independence one day. So I'm hoping to do the role as well as alongside my current job. And a lot of councillors do that, they're even in the cabinet, which is a more busier role, I guess. And they can work alongside doing both. I guess it's all about time management.
And how does that work for you? Because I know that you are a teacher, which is also, one of the most underrated yet most crucial jobs in society, really, which is why I think it's also so important that we speak to you. And I also remember me saying to you that there seems to be a bit of a trend that when you go centre or left, you have a lot of politicians that do come from more traditional community jobs, such as teachers or even within healthcare. And then when you go more centre and right, you tend to see that people come from more economic and money-focused backgrounds. And that kind of gets represented when these people do go into traditional party politics, and also gets represented in the policies that they and the bills that they vote in, and the priorities that they have for their vision for a nation and what's most important. So I know that first of all, I want to commend you for being a teacher, because teachers have been very important to me growing up. But I wanted to ask you what that looks like for you. To me, that sounds quite busy.
Yeah. So I teach in a pupil referral school, so I'm not in mainstream education. So for the it can be easier for me. However, all teaching is stressful and tiring. So I guess managing my time is something that I will be striving to do. I know the current counsellor, who is like a mentor to me. She said she doesn't work on Sundays. She turns her phone off, her iPad and everything off on Sundays, which is something I'm definitely going to do. Self-care Sundays is what it's about. But yeah, I think it's important that people in politics are from all different professions as well. Like, we need people who are not just lawyers all the time, if I'm honest. There's nothing wrong with being a lawyer, but it tends to be a certain career path, that the MPs have come from. And I think if we had more teachers, more people from other careers, other sectors, even people maybe who have more of like a manual profession, I think we need diversity. We need diversity in professions as well, because it does make a huge difference on what policies and bills you will be, I guess, attracted to. And you have so much experience, like people who work as social workers, as community workers, care workers. They have so much experience on the ground. They witness life, every day as a person as well, because you see the hardships, firsthand. And so, you'd want to speak up on them.
Brilliant. I agree. Completely agree. I'm just going to do, we're midway through now, so we're halfway through. If you're just tuned in here on Rinse FM, you're wondering what's going on, we are recreating the first session of You Can Sit With Us with our amazing speaker, Sangeetha Wynter, who is a Labour Party Councillor Candidate for Bristol. And basically what we're doing is we're breaking down UK Parliament and speaking on her experience working her way into being a council candidate for Labour Party. Why it's important to her and what's her journey been so far, and also how you, someone listening today, can get more involved, but also just to give you the tools and the information for you to just form your own opinions, next time you take in and process information, you have a little bit more of a perspective of what you're being told. I'm going to back off again, give you back the floor. Continue.
Yeah, so I've also forgot to mention actually that you can, you earn a salary as well as a local councillor, so you're not doing it for free. So for example, I know in Bristol it's 12,000 a year, I believe, but it varies in other cities as well. And there's generally always 2 councillors, so you can share the workload. So one thing, going back to your question on like how you manage the time. So I love to play football on a Tuesday evening with my girls' football team. And a lot of our meetings, our full council meetings, are on a Tuesday night. And I'm thinking to myself, well, a Tuesday is like, part of me to release, the tension from the week and everything. I could just go out and have, a bit of fun and, work on my fitness. So my co-counsellor said, okay, I'll go to those meetings on a Tuesday and then I'll report back to you on what has happened. Brilliant. So we've got like a little, a deal going on. And then some meetings he can't attend because he's got commitments, I'll go to. There's no point both of us going to the same meetings as well. It's all about being smart with your time. And then you can stretch yourself, and be flexible with how much time you can give.
That's good to know.
Yeah. So because we have a mayor as well, so we have the opportunity to become cabinet councillors as well. So again, I went back to saying, I did say about, the cabinet role is a bit more, I guess it can be a bit more stressful because you have more power. But again, you'll be paid more as well for that. So that is something you could potentially do full time if you wanted to as well. So you'd be paid like a proper, I guess, like an average sort of wage for that. And then you can choose which area you'd like to go into. So there's education, housing, public health, and more. So I'm passionate about education, so I'll probably go into education. But there's also like community nightlife and things like that, which other people might be interested in as well. And then, yeah, from becoming a local councillor, you've got the experience then to become an MP if you want to, or become a mayor of your city. So there's lots of progression if you really wanted to just keep going and become more influential, more powerful, and with that, well, it sounds a bit narcissistic actually, become more powerful. You know what I mean? Like, to help people more.
More helpful.
Yeah, exactly.
which can if you use power right is what you could do.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
Power has gotten a negative tone to it because of the people that we've experienced, but it isn't. Power in itself is not negative.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the connotations, can be quite and yeah, so as a councillor, you've also got casework as well, just like an MP. So you have constituents, people in your area who you represent. They'll email you with their issues and you try and help them. And again, you run surgeries as well, which are essentially like meetings where people can come and ask for help and advice, and you can talk to people and go out on the doorstep as well as another way of sort of talking to people. But what I will say is, like, anyone can become an MP, anyone can become a local councillor, anyone can become a mayor. You don't need a certain, level of GCSEs, not at all. You don't even need to have that much experience, I would say, personally, because, you don't have to become a councillor just to become an MP. You can go straight into becoming an MP. If you're ready, if you feel you're ready, I would say go for it, because there is this misconception that, like, you have to come from a certain background, have to speak a certain way. But to be honest, when you're out on that doorstep and you're knocking on people's doors and you're speaking to real people, they want to see real people and they want to hear from real people who are just like them, Yeah. And sometimes I'll knock on people's doors. There'll be young people like myself. I'm wearing Air Forces too, we've got that common ground, and I can relate to them, and they like to see that, because often, we're not represented enough.
This is very true. I can vouch for that. Sangeetha's already aware of this, but when I finished my master's here in London, I'd done an undergrad in political science, and I couldn't get a job anywhere for over a year. So because I had free time on my hands, I literally lived across the road of the Tower Hamlets Labour Party office, essentially. And I liked my local MP, Rushanara Ali, at the time, who was a very strong-minded, forward-thinking, but very representative of the constituency and the borough, Bengali woman. She was unmarried. It was what I found so interesting about Rushanara Ali is because I recognized myself in her. She was a very proud Bengali woman, but also raised in the UK. She was unmarried. I think she was like dating a Caucasian British man, and she smoked, but she also has a lot of respect for people who are a lot more traditional, practicing Muslims, and she was the perfect combination of what a Londoner looks like. So when I met her, I just thought, well, I've got all this time in my hand, let me see what's going on in the office. And I basically just offered to help with the campaign. So this is exactly knocking on people's doors, printing, like just data entry stuff, very easy to do. It didn't matter what I just finished in my studies or what other jobs I had previously. I was someone who lived in the area and who wanted to help out. And from that, I slowly got the chance to indeed talk about what I had been studying, what I would want to do moving forward. And because she liked me and the other people in the office liked me, and they saw something, and they saw that I had a strong skill for writing and speeches. So then they figured, okay, maybe this is something that you could help out more with. So it started off with just kind of going over and almost reviewing her public facing speeches and letters that were going to go out. to then actually helping out in Portcullis House and getting a paid job and being there 2-3 days a week. And again, that had nothing to do with all the theories I had studied, and not at all. I was just good at a skill that many people can be good at, regardless of what you did in school. And I was able to apply it to that job because I was passionate about something. So exactly what Sangeetha said, don't let any of the book smart stuff put you off. That's definitely not what you need. And I mean, it helps depending on what you're going for, but just to get involved, you definitely don't need that. I'm done. Continue. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And like, you know, everyone's got one thing. There's a quote which I love. It says that, you know, talent is evenly distributed, but opportunity isn't. And, you know, that's the fact of the matter. We all have something in us, something that's special about us, and that, you know, we can give to the world, without sounding really cheesy. But, you know, yeah, so I just, my main advice for a young person or an older person who wants to get involved in the local politics is, you know, join a party that represents you. Get active, so put yourself out there, attend the meetings. You know, a lot of the time you're going to go to these meetings and you're going to look around and see that you're the odd one out, which is how I feel 99% of the time. But actually you go there, get to know the people, and it's fine, you know. A lot of people who attend these meetings, actually, their heart is really in the right place. A lot of them are retired people, and, you know, they are really happy to see young people attend. Like, they love it because they can learn from you as well. And, you know, you can learn from them. You know, I don't know the history of the Labour Party very well, so I can talk to them about it, and they can tell me, you know, who Clement Attlee was and all these people, you know, that, you know, I don't know who, you know, you know, it's quite nice. And I'll also say, you know, be yourself. Friends involved as well. Since I've been doing this, my friends sometimes message me questions, like, oh, the election's coming up, what do I need to know? And they'll message me, and I'll sort of do little posts on Instagram and things like that to sort of tell my friends what's going on. And they quite like that as well. And they're more than happy to help out with canvassing and things like that as well. And, you know, being a person of colour, especially coming from an Indian background as well, I've got a big family, and so everyone will like share your Facebook page, like your Facebook page. So a lot of my followers are from London and not even from Bristol, which is quite funny, because, you know, the support is there. So we've got numbers, you know, we do have numbers, which is something you need in this. And yeah, get active as much as possible, essentially.
I have another question actually about something you said earlier about when you have your meetings that, you know, people from the ward will actually are able to join and voice concerns or ask questions. What kind of questions have you had to deal with? Like, what should I imagine?
Yeah, so basically, you know, everyone will sit like and meet in like a community centre or church hall. And a lot of the questions can be things like, you know, how are we going to encourage more people to, you know, canvass with us? So we'll talk about arranging canvassing sessions. And when I say canvassing, I mean like campaigning, so going out with leaflets. So we'll organise sessions and we'll talk them through. We also talk a lot about fundraising as well, how we can you know, make more money for our local branch. So we'll put on like fairs and local community days to help people, to help raise some money as well, so we can spend it on campaigns and helping people. We get different speakers come in as well. So we get speakers from local government, such as, you know, councillors, MPs, and they will come and address us every month to give us like a little update on what's going on. At the moment, it's all been virtual. Fair play to all the people that are like, you know, retired and stuff, like they're on it with the technology. So it's been really good actually, to still be informed on what's going on and stuff. And then of course you can raise your own concerns that you have as well. Sometimes it can get a bit heated. I know there's some parts of Bristol where, you know, their meetings, you can get a bit heated. And there's lots of, I guess, differences in opinions, you know. So some people lean towards a certain type of politics within the Labour Party and vice versa. And, you know, not everyone agrees on anything or on everything. But I think it's quite healthy as well to have a look at those debates and to sit there and sort of take in both sides and actually, you know, think about how we can, you know, move forward as a party together and be more, you know, unified. But it is important as well to have these debates, I think. So it's a place where everyone can sort of come and discuss what they need to, basically.
Now, for people who I know we've got 15 minutes left. For people who voting is something that, you know, is becoming more popular through, you know, social media and the power of social media, and people who have a lot of influence making like statements about how important it is for especially young people to go out and vote. But something that I do strongly sense is that a lot of people are completely lost when it comes to voting. And also there's different type of elections, and how do you know who to vote for when? And what advice would you give for young people who are tuned in today who kind of think, I just kind of vote for who my friends tell me to vote for because I don't know how it works? What would you tell them to do in order to understand what works best for them?
I guess I would tell them to, go on the party's website, read the manifestos, look at the policies for yourself. Also, even going on Twitter, that's another quick way of doing it. Like, you could literally type in the usernames of the party leaders, like, for example, Keir Starmer or Boris Johnson, and look at their Twitter page as well, because that also indicates what they've been doing. I think we're quite lucky in this day and age. We've got it all on our phones now, so you don't have to sit and watch BBC Parliament if you don't want to. There's some of us that like it, you know, but that's not for everyone, and it can give you an indication on, you know, their values, and what they represent, really.
Perfect. What do you still have left for us? I know there's homework at the end of everything.
Yes, I have some books I can recommend. A really, really good book that I have is the TED Talks Official Guide to Public Speaking by Chris Anderson. And this book, literally, I've read it back to front, and it's a really good way of helping you build confidence with public speaking, because even I get really nervous still when I have to speak in public. And this book has really helped me with that. Also, even watching TED Talks as well can be a real help, because you kind of don't want to, put people to sleep. You still want to engage with people as well. But yeah, it's a really, really good book. I really recommend that. And then someone actually gave me this book. It's called The Women of Westminster, the MPs Who Changed the World, by Rachel Reeves. And it's a really interesting book. Talks about the MPs that have, shaped our politics. You might not agree with all of them, but it's a really good one. Especially got my favourite Diane Abbott in there, who doesn't get the respect.
Good old Diane. Yeah,
literally.
Powerful.
And then I've got Becoming by Michelle Obama. This is a good book as well, because even though it's obviously about US politics, it definitely applies. On Netflix, I also urge you to watch Bring the House Down. I think it's called Bring the House Down, Knock the House Down. Okay, something like that. And it follows Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, who's the congresswoman in America, New York. And she's a socialist, and she was a waitress and is now a congresswoman. Amazing story. And it follows other people as well, and their rise to political power. And it's a really, really good series. I definitely urge you to watch it.
What is something that you've picked up during your time, the last 2 or so years, that you can actually now apply to your life or career outside of politics? Are there some things you feel like have helped you, whether that's debating or speaking or formulating what the points that you're trying to put across, or even your way of writing or processing information? Like, what are some things you've picked up that are not necessarily just applicable to politics?
Oh, that is quite a question. I guess the people I've been around, like the counsellors I've seen, everyone's been really supportive. So like just seeing how they handle things, even just watching the news, seeing people on, who are invited to come on TV, and yeah, seeing how they get their points across. Yeah, it's really inspiring. I tend to listen to a lot of podcasts as well, and I guess that helps. But I guess I just speak from the heart, so I'm just passionate about it. That helps. If you're interested in something and you're passionate about something, it will just come through quite easily, which is good. Like if you were to have me back to talk about Beyonce, I could talk all day.
Who knows?
So,
Who knows? We might need to do a session on Beyonce as well. Also a very important topic that we live and breathe.
Definitely.
Where do you see this going? Well, in like an ideal state, right? Not like wanting to jinx anything or whatever, but like if nothing was an issue or an obstacle, and even if it were, but it's something you can overcome, what would you be doing 10, 15, 20 years from now if you had it your way?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I would definitely become an MP potentially, or even work for the United Nations. That's something that was like a dream. I'm passionate about languages and foreign policy as well. So that would probably be my calling, I guess. Yeah.
This is amazing, because this is a thing. There's so many options and lanes you can inhabit, coming from, doing a little bit of time, full-time, part-time, it doesn't matter, but being involved in your local politics. It could be super grassroots level. It could be way more on the business side of things, where you can really, it can take you a lot of places. People end up working as policymakers for NGOs, for charities, for all sorts of corporations and organizations that also you could almost say are the less ugly side of politics. So where you only have to fulfill what you're really passionate about. Sometimes you have to, in traditional party politics, there's a lot of give and take, because it's not just you, and you're representing a whole party that needs to represent the whole country, which is essentially impossible. So there's so many possibilities. It's good for people to know that. Any final words before we say thank you and goodbye?
And I just also like to say, it doesn't matter what you study at uni. You can definitely, still go into politics if you want to.
Exactly. Yeah. Need to be represented.
Yes, definitely. We just need more representation.
Where can we find you? Where can we follow what you do? Where can we make sure to go and check if you made it next year?
Okay, so yeah.
You have to actually get your phone out. I want to know my app.
What's my Twitter handle? So yeah, if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can. It's my username is S_Wynter, which is WYNTER 94. That's my @. I tweet about the Labour Party. I tweet about other stuff as well. So it's not all politics. It could be fun. Beyonce, yeah, exactly. The music scene.
We love to
anything.
So
yeah.
Sangeetha, I want to say thank you so much, especially because I know this is your second time doing this, but this time we've got it all. I have it all recorded. We're definitely going to stay in touch, and I want to keep following your journey. Hopefully next year I get to do a little toast, because you you know, finally after 2 years.
Yeah, I know.
Corona ruining your plans. If you've missed any of today's session, not to worry. Later today, the entire session will go up on the Rinse FM SoundCloud and on my SoundCloud as well, so you can listen back to it in your own time, full length. And we've also recorded the video of this, so we'll be putting up the visuals on YouTube for those who are more visually inclined and would like to see our bedrooms in the background to let you know how real we are. And we will be doing these sessions every week. You can join them Monday evenings, 8 p.m. live via Zoom. And then other than that, they will go out on Rinse every Thursday. Thank you so much once again, Sangeetha. Thank you so much.
That's right.
And I will speak to you very soon. Thank you for your time.
That's all right. Thanks for having me.